So the first time I tried it, I've wanted to try it for my entire life, basically. I was fascinated with, I had a hard time because like I knew what it was like to be drunk, and being drunk doesn't feel like a separate reality. It feels like, a slightly altered reality. You still see what's going on. It might be a little blurry. Jokes are a little funnier. It's easier to talk to people. You have that liquid courage. So that's the only frame of reference I had. But I would hear people talk about seeing things that weren't there, or hearing things that weren't there, or, you know, like feeling like you were someone else. Or it's just like, man, this is like, I couldn't imagine what that was like. So I was really interested in trying it. And my girlfriend at the time, her brother had a hookup to get some. And so we were really excited to do it. And we got it from him. And I remember one night we just sat down and we tried it. And he told us that it takes about 45 minutes to kick in. So, give yourself a little bit of time. And I asked, okay, how long does it last? And he says, about 6, maybe 8 hours. I was like, what? I was not
all night.
I was not ready for that. And so we're like, okay, we'll try this at 7 p.m. And so it'll take us through the night and everything. So we tried it, waited 30 minutes, nothing. 45 minutes, nothing.
You went back in and then you made a mistake, didn't you?
Well, nothing happened at all. It turned out nothing happened at all. Because he told us hey, about 1/4 gram to 1/2 gram. He's like, that's about what you want to start. If you're a beginner, that's pretty good. And we did it and we got nothing. And then we tried it again. And then I was telling my buddy about it. I was my workout partner. And he said that, he's like, that's weird. He says, do you take any SSRIs? He said, yeah. He goes, well, there it is. There you go. He's like, if you take SSRIs, it won't work. That's the first science lesson I learned about that. So I stopped taking them because
I just went off.
Done. And the next month I tried it. So my girlfriend was taking them too. That's why I didn't work on her too. And she didn't stop taking hers because her mental health was important to her. And it's like, fuck it, I don't care. So I didn't take it. And I remember that the night I first tried it, we were watching The Day After Tomorrow. We had the movie.
Choice? What?
Bad idea, TJ. Bad idea to watch The Day After Tomorrow on that. And I just remember that the first thing I noticed when it kicked in was my mood swings. I would just jump from hysterical laughter, just like nothing had been funnier to me in my life than, the Nintendo Switch sitting on the table. It just made me just like my side split with laughter for no reason. And then 2 minutes later, tears. I'm just bawling in sadness, for no reason at all. And then The Day After Tomorrow is a disaster film, for those of you who don't know. And so the world is coming to an end, and I'm watching these waves crashing and killing these people and these poor kids, and I'm bawling my eyes out, And then I remember a Dave Chappelle sketch where he talks about doing, psychedelics, and he mentioned the time dilation, and it clicked right then because I felt like I had been on this for 3 hours. It was 15 minutes. It was 15 minutes. My mind was shattered.
So slow.
Yeah.
I always feel that way. I always feel like, are we really moving through time still, or?
Well, yeah. All right. So then I started thinking about that very same thing. And so this is what happens is that the number one thing that happens is I don't really see a lot of visual stuff. I have to try to do that. If I try, I can make it happen. But I don't know about you. Does that happen to you naturally?
Like if I'm on a trip and then I look at the trees or I look at the stars, like I can focus on the visuals and I can be mind blown by the visuals, but it's not the primary.
Yeah.
My experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by that because it actually takes some work.
Myself. I just I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I'm thinking. So
yeah, that's the exact same thing that I went through. But so when that happens, you start thinking about small concepts that you never really, spend a whole lot of time on. And I started thinking about the concept of time itself and how time is literally our fourth dimension. Like we say we're 3-dimensional. We live in a 3-dimensional world. We live in a 4-dimensional world at the very least, probably a lot more. Yeah. But time is not a spatial dimension. it's a dimension that's linear. It only goes one way. And the weird thing is that I started going down these thoughts too when I had it, is that like mathematically, there's no reason that time only goes in one direction. There isn't. Like
first of all, but we can have another episode on that.
Well, it's like but like as far as we know, we have no method into traveling backward in time. Now you can manipulate time fairly easily. I mean, not easily, but you can. Like the satellites that are orbiting the Earth are experiencing time differently than we are. They're like they have to fix the clocks to make sure the times actually match. And if you like go at a certain speed, time slows down. You orbit around a massive object, time slows down. And so you just start thinking about this and how like strange the world is, and you will focus on this for what feels like hours, and it'll be 10 minutes. And so that's kind of like how I first went through this.
So the first time, my first like intentional, like private experience with it, not at a party or like, really wanting, was very, very similar. I made better choices. I watched Rick and Morty. But I remember, you thought about time. I remember like my first trip, I was just like, I mean, I went hard. I was like, what is consciousness? And
Wow.
my whole first trip was like, just thinking all the thoughts about like, am I the sound in my brain, or am I my skin suit here and all that stuff? So, but Rick and Morty helped, made it like a little bit more fun and digestible. But I'm definitely the same way with the visuals. I love being outside, and I love nature, and I love art. So really, I think a lot of the times if I do like micro dosing or anything like that, it's for those objectives, just so I can absorb and see more of whatever I'm going to look at that day. But I think once I experienced for myself too, like I had a lot of trauma. I have a TBI. I have like a scar going all the way back into my head here from, I don't know if I should say it like that. I have all kinds of stuff messing with my memory. And the more I did that, it was something I thought I was never going to get back. Like my brain was never going to function like other people's anymore. And I'd like given up on my short-term memory, all kinds of stuff by my late 20s. And then when I started doing these more often, and I saw for myself that like, I really feel like I'm sharper than I was. Like I've almost regained some things in my brain, maybe. And I don't know, that's just my experience, but I know I've read a million times that they create neural pathways in your brain. Like they're helping us use more of our brain. So once I had like had that experience that I felt like tangible for myself, I was just like, this is a great thing for me, like positive thing for me, so, and I feel like it does that for me every time. I'm always like thinking more clear. Even when I'm not trying to have an experience like it, they've just improved my brain. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense, because it took me a while to get there, because generally when I would try this, the experience is, I also want to say to anybody out there that the experience isn't as scary as you think it's going to be. That's the number one thing I want to put out there, because everyone is told these legends about how you'll take it and then you'll feel like you're Superman. You'll jump out of a window. I've actually never heard of that happening to anybody in real life. It's an old wives' tale. But
if you think you're Superman, you're going to be here like this. You're going to be like, don't let me get up.
Anything green will terrify you. You just surrender everything. But no, it was just it's just like what Kayla said. It helps you. It made me more me. And I felt like, so one of the issues I had is that I have a very difficult time expressing uncomfortable emotions. I don't like it. It makes me I kind of cringe just thinking about it, but when you take the substance, it amplifies all of your emotions times 10. And one thing that I noticed is I had way too much sad songs, way too many sad songs on my playlist, because folks, when you take, the mushrooms and listen to music, it feels like you have never listened to music a day in your life. It is just, I cannot stress enough how powerful the music feels. It's like you can touch it. It's
like
just
you've
like
never heard of music before. You've never
exactly.
heard music before.
That's the best way I can describe it. It feels like you've never actually listened to anything. And I began to notice how the music was affecting my mood. If I listened to a happy song, I was through the roof with happiness, even if I didn't even like the song or if I didn't want to listen to it. And I was going, then when I listened to a sad song, mood just dropped. And I was like, all right, that's actually happening to me. I just don't notice it when I'm not on this substance. And I notice the same thing with the weather. Like when it's a sunny day, it's elation that I feel just from the sun being outside. But if it's dark and it's cloudy, it's awful. It's just like some of the worst feelings ever. So you notice that too?
Yeah, no, it's the exact same for me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild on that. And but throughout my day-to-day life, after I got used to it, because I go through these big swings with it. I remember I will tell you this, I very rarely got angry on it. It's hard actually. I don't know you, but do you have
the most intense negative like emotion I've ever had was fear. Like, I've been like very afraid, but usually I have like things in my head. I've never, I would say the same.
Yeah, for some reason it's hard to get angry. It's hard to get angry, and for me, I think you said you were different on this. It's very hard to sleep. I cannot sleep at all.
I can sleep. But I am like into like trying. I have a dream journal, but they do make me sleepy. But I almost feel like I've given myself like permission to like carry my experiences into my dreams or whatever. I don't know, but I can, no problem. But
See, it makes me
really intense dreams.
It makes me very sleepy, but I can't sleep. Like I can lay down and rest. But I remember like one of the most powerful experiences I had two. I hesitate to call them dreams because I was definitely awake. But one of them, I think I told you guys about it before. I was time traveling. I was just jumping to different areas of my life, and I felt like I was there. I knew I was in bed. But in my mind, I had like crafted an elevator and I was going to different floors.
Perhaps. I don't know.
Say what?
Like astral projection, perhaps?
Yeah, like an astral projection. Exactly. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was just like I was just bouncing around from different times and locations in my life and different people I hadn't thought about in forever. And then I also had another like weird dream where you mentioned like, am I the voice in my brain or am I me?
My inner narrative, yeah. Like my inner narrative never shuts up. But anytime I'm on a trip, like it's me and her. I'm like, girl, shut up.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on. Well, we're gonna that. Hold on. I want to talk about that in a bit. That's something that okay. Hold on. 2K.
You're like, Taylor, you're getting crazy.
All right. No, I want to ask about that. That's so. I was in my brain. Like, how I said like an elevator in my brain. I felt like I was standing and I had like visualized my brain around me, and there was me, little TJ, standing in there. And for some reason, I know I was for some reason, this quote was echoing, just bouncing off the walls, and it was a quote from Karl Marx, and it was what was it? The traditions of dead generations echo like a nightmare on the brains of the living. And that just kept bouncing off the walls. And it was terrifying to me. But those are like the two. And those are only the worst trips I had. Most of them were pretty good. But after I got over that, this took weeks before I was actually comfortable with this. I started doing it every day. And have you ever seen the movie Limitless? You ever see that movie?
Oh, I love me some. What's his name? That guy.
Bradley Cooper, right?
Of course, I've seen Limitless a few times.
After I started regularly doing this once a day, I was like, I get it now. I felt like I mentioned before, I did feel like Superman. My brain was operating at like 3 times capacity. I was more creative than I ever been.
Yes, same for me. Like the creativity. Like I call myself a creative and an artist now, and like that's something I never would have said before.
Really?
Started doing this stuff. I didn't even know. You remember? Okay, I'm not a good like drawer or like artist like that. But remember when I was like posting my stuff? I didn't think before I started doing all this stuff I couldn't even draw a stick figure.
Wow.
I got into, and I still draw just like for therapeutic. I'm not that great, but I'm better than a stick figure. So that was all post me getting into this part of my life where I experienced stuff like that.
That's incredible, actually. I just assumed you always knew how to draw.
Show you one of my drawings, but it's really not that good.
Well, no, I've seen like you've posted a few things where you draw. Yeah, you're pretty good at it.
Right? Like it's kind of an interesting late life discovery, but I never drew.
That's amazing. Wow. So you found a new talent.
I guess kind of, yeah. I mean, and that started me on the road to a lot of other stuff. I would do all kinds of like art and creativity and stuff like that. And now I feel like that is who I am. It's part of my life. This podcast, you know, probably wouldn't be our podcast.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for that too. Again, we've talked about when I came up with this random idea, but here we are. Like we can credit it to one guy.
See, that's interesting to me because I don't relate to that experience at all because I didn't get any new talents. I still can't draw. I can't draw.
Well, I can't draw. Think that you're not crediting yourself enough. Like you weren't doing this a few years ago, were you?
It was, but I always wanted to do this and I knew I could. And so It's not a new talent. I guess
well, yeah, but still, like, I don't know. Even knowing you, like, as your friend, like 5 years ago, even knowing that you wanted to do it, like, I don't know that you could have been doing it like you are now. So I think
I think it came after. I'm pretty sure it came. They were pretty close together. Yeah, because I made a couple videos. Who cares about this shit? But I'll think of the timeline. It doesn't matter. But I'll think about that. But but it kind of flows with what you were saying. I always said that it makes me more me. Like everything that I was, it just amplified it. And so I don't know if I got anything new. I discovered more things about myself, I guess, but a new talent. I wish I could have had that. That's kind of incredible.
Well, your life, you're still young. Okay, you don't know. You're not done yet. Okay,
yeah, that's true. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, give it time. Yeah, and the 2K-less thing. I want to talk about that because one of the things that I talked about a lot with this is this. It sounds so cliche, but the self-discovery. And I had to come to terms with a lot of uncomfortable realities about myself and things that I just didn't like acknowledging. Times where I had been, like incredibly selfish and cruel and dismissive and judgmental and arrogant. And I always say that, listen, I'll be humble when I have something to be humble about. That this doesn't happen terribly often. But I mean, I could be a better person in that way. And so it's kind of like you have two dogs inside of you, an evil dog and
Huh? Yeah, you do have two dogs inside you.
Yeah, it's like an evil one and a good one, and it's just a day-to-day struggle on which one wins. And I had to face the fact that, man, the evil dog won more times than I care to acknowledge. And so that's what I would say with the two. Yeah. But you seem to be saying
that's a very similar experience too with the fear. Like I keep saying how scared I was, and when I think back to my first most of my first trips, like that was what I had to get through. And that was kind of one of the ugly things. I'm glad you said it that way. Like that was the ugly thing about me that I had to face, and I wasn't going to get to any of the other fun or, like warm parts or, more exciting parts of a trip until I faced me. And that really, I think most people that I talk to that, do this stuff, similar experiences, like first it makes you face yourself, and for me it was fear. I had to realize I had to face the fact that I lived in fear 24/7. So yeah, same.
that's I hated that because I had that too, because there are very few things I respect less than cowardice, and finding out that I was a coward in a lot of ways is I hate thinking about it.
That was profound statement that you just made. Here. Yes. I felt the same.
Which one?
Everything you just said, that I felt this exact same way, like finding out that I was a coward and there was all these things about me that, but that was well said, TJ.
Well, one of them, see, this is why I wish I could remember the timeline on this, on doing social media stuff and the shrooms, because the number one reason that I never started doing stuff like this years ago, the number one reason was because I did not want to hear the sound of my voice. Most people hate the sound of their voice, right? Because it's not the voice that you hear when you speak. And so whenever I heard my voice, recorded and someone played it back, I'm like, oh, that is just terrible. That's it. That's literally it. That's literally the reason I didn't do it, because I wasn't comfortable with the sound of my voice. And I do a lot of public speaking. I've done it for years. I'm very good at it. I know that. And people have been telling me since I was a kid, oh, you've got a great voice, man. You have a fantastic voice. Pretty good. I hate it. To this day, I still hate it. And it was that irrational fear that not only would I not like doing it, but man, everyone's going to make fun of me because I sound stupid. Like dumb shit like that. And so, yeah, it's really embarrassing to just lock down how irrational a lot of your fears are when it comes right down to it.
Well, and I have a show recommendation. I've already told you to watch this, but since we're live, I'm going to preach about that show on Netflix that I love to tell people to watch. There's a show on Netflix, and it's I believe the creator lives here in Nashville. I won't go too far into how I found out about it, but it's called Midnight Gospel. And anyway, even if you don't, decide to take fungi or something, it's a really profound little show. But I don't think that if you could get into it without it. But it has episodes on really, like, it's covering a lot of our things like that, like fear and what most people are really afraid of, and thoughts that we all think. And it's really complex and deep. But 10 out of 10 would recommend eating some fungi and then watching it. But if you don't want to do that, just watch it in general, because it's kind of those vibes.